Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the stream on time today. That's kind of irregular. Usually I wait a couple minutes. So I actually had, well, I would say I have nothing to do, so I wanted to do a stream. But really, I do streams where I have lots of things to do, and I'm procrastinating them. But I can feel like I'm doing something by doing a stream. Within the past, or within the next week or so, is my audio a little high? It looks a little, it's getting red on this thing. Maybe I should turn this down. Within the next week or so, I'm actually going to have a couple more books on, where is it? Lindy Press right there. So if you want to check those out, they're not up yet, but I'm not even uploading it all right now. Let me see. Let me see if it's actually going through. I don't know if I even, okay, yeah, I am going through. So, okay, yeah, I guess it started off with really bad bandwidth. So I have a couple books that are going to be on Lindy Press pretty soon. Again, a revision of the etymologies book, and then Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy, an alchemy reader, and then a couple other ones that are pretty close to being done. Probably the next one that'll be added. Well, the etymologies revisions are actually already up. I ordered my own copy. I want to check some other things. Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy, that I'm getting a proof copy right now, and I'll probably figure it out. It's where you're talking to. Yeah. And then there are a couple, like I have a list of them, actually. The Alchemy Reader had one thing that I wasn't able to fit in at the Rosarium Philosophorum. Or, well, I could fit it in there, but I figured it's long enough to be its own book, so I might just make its own book. And then I have Filmer's Patriarcha and Aquinas on Sex. Those are later ones. How's the audio volume? Is it like a little loud? Because on my side, it's going into the red a little bit. Oh yeah, so, yeah, I'm wearing my Buc-ee's merch today. I'm looking for a corporate sponsorship, guys. Okay, Buc-ee's, any Buc-ee's people out there? I want an official Buc-ee's endorsement. I will wear Buc-ee's merch all the time. That'll be my deal. So that's what the thumbnail is. Or really, I just made that thumbnail because I was going to wear this shirt. Alright. Yeah, it is a little loud. I'm going to turn it down just a smidgen. Because it is... Okay, yeah, that looks a little bit better. Alright. So, normal life. I'm going to talk about some other things I've been doing. Just to be clear, I think I said this in the chat like a million years ago before anyone was in it, but I am going to be having some new videos this week that, well, new videos, but also videos that, like, I've been in this habit of not putting up videos on YouTube. I'll put them on PeerTube, you know, on my own website or wherever it is up there, if you go to the video section. But like then I'll usually put them over on YouTube, but I've been forgetting recently, just because I don't know. I guess I care less about YouTube. Many more people watch on YouTube, but it's like I don't know. I just like feel it less. Like I'm not really doing it for the view counts anymore. I guess, which is good, but you know, you have more people watching, more people. I guess you get ad revenue on YouTube, so you know that it's not really real until you're getting paid for it, right? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll start answering questions or whatever. I think I already got some donations or whatever. Someone sent a PayPal donation. Okay, I usually don't. Okay, so PayPal donation from Lev. Please confirm for tomorrow's stream with Alexander. Oh, crap, I totally forgot about this. Yeah, I told this guy I was going to go on his like podcast thing. I guess that's tomorrow. Let's see. I guess it's gonna be on 3 p.m. Yeah, I guess I can make that. I don't know who this guy is, or I'm supposed to be appearing with somebody called Alexander Bart. I don't know who these guys are. I don't know what they're gonna talk about. We probably said in the email chain if I look at this. Hold on. Okay, yeah, here he did email me. Yeah. So sure, I'll go on that. I don't know. I might regret it going on something with people I don't even know. I'm actually kind of, it might be, you know, kind of obvious, but I'm not a big person for, like, I don't know all these podcasts and stuff. It's not really my scene. I'm looking at the normal chat, and I'm also looking at the fact that, okay, now we're going faster again. Do you have any videos about how one should evaluate land before buying? I will say that I don't have a video on that in particular, but I will say I think it's almost not worth a video because a lot of the things about land are just like obvious. Because when I was first looking for land, I will say I wanted to, like, if I found a parcel that was really cheap, I would want to force myself into buying it. Like, ooh, I really got to get this. Oh, this thing's like $20,000 and that's it. Wow, that's great. But like a lot of the times, like, you don't want to fool yourself into getting property you know is bad, and you probably already know it's bad. Like in those cases, like I was out up in the mountains, which was very remote in the first place, which isn't bad necessarily. It's kind of hard to get to places. But, you know, if you have really hilly terrain, it's just hard to build stuff on. Like, you got to worry about erosion and all this kind of other stuff. I think my advice, I guess, for land is don't fool yourself into thinking that something is more valuable than it actually is, right? The one thing you don't want to do is find some plot that's super cheap and you just want to like, oh wow, it's like by this highway and it's super crappy and I can't hear anything, but like, you know, I'm gonna convince myself to thinking it's good. Oh my goodness, like I'm looking at the KB up and it's like see, I've never actually watched one of my live streams to see like the kind of bandwidth I'm actually getting, but yeah, this isn't so good. But either way, my answer to that question would just be don't deceive yourself. You know what to look for. You want flat land. You want stuff that like isn't too filled with like you don't want it too close to a highway or something weird like that. Like the obvious stuff that you would think about. You know, that's just what I'm saying. Don't fool yourself into getting something cheap just if it's in a crappy place or it's going to be hard to build land on. But do try to avoid cities, and I don't just mean big cities, I mean even small towns. Like being in the city limits can also make a big difference in terms of what things you can do on your property. But I might have some things to say in a full video on this, but I'll have to think about it. But I would just say in general, follow your gut on it, because like don't try and like it's harder to do things than people think. Like a lot of people say, oh, I'm just gonna get some amount of land and like build all this crap on it, and it takes a lot of work. Like if you're on this mountainous terrain and you know you have to do all this kind of stuff just to clear the land and it's not even flat, like that's kind of rough. But so all right, so plastic sends in some XMR. I'd love to hear a not related episode on the Jewish revolutionary spirit and 200 Years Together. I've not read either of those books. Yeah, I don't have them. But yeah, I mean the thing with Jewish stuff, if you do like a podcast episode on that, like how it comes, like people in the West, they're so like vaccinated against certain realities. You know what I mean? And it's very hard to get through to them. So, like, really, like, people just kind of have to reach their own conclusions by, you can't really tell them. You have to, like, gently lead them into that kind of stuff. So, especially when it comes to, like, Jews and stuff. Like, there are certain things that Americans, like, they're so programmed against. It's just, like, pulling teeth. Now, I did think about, on, like, not Jewish stuff, but on, like, National Socialist stuff, I do have a really good book called Race in the Third Reich by Christopher Hutton. And I usually recommend that to people. Just like read the introduction. It's a good academic book, more or less like clear. Like a lot of the things that people think about, like the intellectual environment of the world, the like World War II and stuff like that, is kind of. I mean, it's kind of holdovers from propaganda. I think that's a good. Race in the Third Reich is a good book just to kind of clear that kind of stuff up. And I have thought about doing a podcast episode on that. But it's more like normie friendly. But I'm not big into like these. I'm not big into these people who like just do stuff to like shock and awe their audience. Like you know, shock them out of their dogmatic slumber. Because the reality is, you have to speak to people on where they are. Like you can't do any spurgy things. That's just kind of cringe. And you look stupid when you do it. With people who don't know and with people who do. You know what I mean? So. But I have read E. Michael Jones, so he wrote Jewish Revolutionary Spirit. I have not read that, but I do have his Libido Dominandi like right there. It was pretty good. But so Luke sends in $5. Hi Luke, like you, I was an atheist for most of my late teens. I'm trying to get back into Catholicism, but I keep getting these impulses in my brain which rationalize everything, which is sort of a Richard Dawkins version of conscious or conscience. Okay, I don't know if he means consciousness. Conscience or internal monologue. Any tips on overcoming this? I feel like it's a big obstacle for my faith, and I keep veering to. Well, I mean, if you're converted, Catholicism is based on rationalism, right? So, I mean, that's one of the big differences between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, right? So, like, the Catholic background is all predicated in scholasticism and all this kind of stuff, all this kind of hyper-rationalism. So, I mean, the real solution would be Orthodox. But yeah, I mean, this is not. Well, actually, let's see. He says, I keep veering toward a metaphorical version of Christianity, which, like Jordan Peterson. This is so annoying. Can people hear what I'm saying right now, or is it just the video that's not going through? That's my question. No, so like the reason why people like Brett Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, all those guys are so pernicious is because they're trying to sell people this like pseudo religion. They're trying to sell people, or really, like some people kind of want to believe in a religion. Like that's my view of it. I wasn't necessarily like that when I was an atheist, but some people like they kind of feel like, oh yeah, there's something to this, and I want to believe in it. But they're so like their brain has been so addled by these like. I guess the background radiation of atheism in our society that it's like so difficult for them to do it. And so they have to believe in this fake religion of like everything's metaphorical and everything's for my own like ego and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean all of that. Just avoid any of those kind of people. And like it's not about like you don't have to rationally convince yourself of anything. That's the important thing. Like you have faith and you pray for faith, right? This is not a. I mean I don't know why. Like there might be many, I can't think of one, but there might be many things that don't make rational sense to me, but I'll believe in them. You know what I mean? It's not an issue. I don't know. You're in the wrong. Like you think that being converted to a religion means being like convinced of some argument or something like that, and that's just not what it is. That's not what it is at all. And in fact, if that's how you think, you are inevitably going to be like one of these inane people who one of these Jordan Peterson kind of people who like. Who just take like basically what they do is they take this hyper materialism as just fact, like that is just how it is. They don't even think. I mean, even like the most basic Aquinian arguments for God, they don't even consider. I mean, it's just like I assume that there is nothing but matter, and how can I from that assumption reach something aside from hyper materialism? I don't know. Maybe you can't. So like that's not an interesting thing, and that's where people are. This age is the only age in which people have, like, atheism has become the default, and that has never been the case in the rest. Like no one before the 20th century said, "Oh yeah, I'm an atheist because like that's just a reasonable thing to do." No, that was an insane position, right? Because people didn't start from this, let's assume that there's nothing but matter, and then I have to convince myself that something else, or really, as it comes to like the creation of the universe, right? The assumption of atheists now, and the assumption of probably people like you, who basically have atheist presuppositions, is, well, I see this material stuff, and I don't really know where it comes from, but I'm just going to assume that like science will figure it out, right? And like. This is like, I mean, whereas the Aquinian arguments for God, right? Again, well, I know I just kind of spoke down against scholastics, but it's a good example because atheists will have these very dumb arguments where they're like, oh well, saying God had to create stuff isn't a good. It's an infinite regress because then who created God and all blah 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 blah. That's not the point of the argument. The point of the argument is obviously the materialistic chain of causality has to be broken somewhere. Therefore, you have to have some level of reality that is non-material, right? That's all it means. It's not like God is a physical object in the universe that created things and he needs a cause as well. No, it's that there is something beyond. I mean, by definition, like if you have causality, there must be something. Since causality doesn't cause itself, if you assume that, you obviously by definition do not have. You have to have something that is beyond the materialistic mechanism that we're familiar with. Like, and I mean that's just like a tautology. But people nowadays, they don't even like think in those terms. They think in terms of, well, I see material stuff and that's it. And like I don't know, someone has to convince me that there has to be something else, right? All right, Plastic sent in some more XMR. He says, how can RMS be such a based free software activist while supporting the Vaxxerino mandates at the same time. His political notes are pure cringe. Yeah, they definitely are. And with there are many people like RMS who are like, so they have the tism so hard that they will hark on these one. I think really Stallman is like he's living like in 2004. I think that's the easiest way to understand it. Like he's living in this place where like he thinks that like George Bush is still president, and he thinks like, you know, parties on the left are better for freedom than parties on the right, you know, stuff like that. Just, I don't know. There's this very brief period in history when that was the case, and that was like basically 2003 until like 2008, like during the Bush. Well, even then, like there were a bunch of like base leftists who were like pro-privacy, stuff like that, who had all these like you know, anti-globalization protests. It's impossible to imagine leftists, or at least like large organizations. Maybe some random off guy will do that, but yeah, I think he's very much in that period, and he's also, I mean, he's so tethered to like socialism, or I don't know if he calls it socialism, but you know what I mean, basically what a person would call socialism. We're running out of bandwidth again. But I think I don't know. I don't really care about him. Like you can't care about the personalities. That's the important things. Like if you are tethered to like these personal, I mean, that is the biggest recommendation that I would give internet people out there. Like all these, if you're consuming product, if you're consuming my product, my live stream right now, or anyone else's, the best advice that I could give you is literally stop caring about people on the internet. Like, you don't know any of these people. You don't know me. You don't know Richard Stallman. You don't know all this kind of stuff. Like, most people on the internet, like, it's not an accurate representation of how they are. And it's also very stupid for you to think about ideas in terms of people, like in terms of like a big drama complex. That is an extremely primitive and extremely dumb way of looking at things. Internet grug sports, all that kind of stuff, it's just stupid. That said, why does RMS, why is he so cringe on the vax? Why is he so cringe on like Trump and stuff like that? I don't know. Who cares? But yeah, he is very solid on free software. I mean, it's sort of like what people say, like when you really know about something, and in Stallman's case, he really knows about like computing and free software and like what actually happens when you have proprietary software. You know, people often say people are always reactionaries about things they actually know about. And they can be really liberal on everything else, but they're going to be really reactionary on the thing that they know about. And that is definitely the case in Stallman's case. Of course, he probably thinks of free software as being like liberal or something like that. But no, I mean, like really, the entire copyright system is just fundamentally stupid. And like the system is so reliant on it. I mean, we're not going to like just get rid of the copyright system, but if we could, it would make a big difference, you know. Okay, so CD Cap says, have you attended a TLM? If so, what are your thoughts? Also, did you choose Orthodoxy because of Pope? Oh, TLM. I was like, what is that? He means traditional Latin Mass. No, I've never. Did I choose Orthodoxy because of Pope Francis? No. I definitely think it's absolutely impossible to be a Catholic without being a sedevacantist, but that's not like, that doesn't make me less likely to believe it. You know, I've stated my reasons. They're more like the Western Church innovates. They innovate like crazy. They've added so much to the faith, so much to tradition that it's crazy. And of course, like all of the later inventions, all of the mechanization of salvation and all this kind of stuff, like came with that. And I guess there's some way where like, you know, now that they have this heretic pope, or really, you know, the whole Vatican II thing, that's kind of a result of that, but that's not like the primary reason that, you know, I don't take Catholicism that seriously. Now, if you're a lay Catholic and you don't know any better, like you don't know the issues around here, like I can kind of understand someone going to Mass or like thinking it's okay or whatever, but like, I don't know. I cannot say that I think that the Western, like I cannot look back at the Great Schism and say, oh yeah, the West was right, because it wasn't. And the intellectual developments that happened since then were basically all bad on the side of the West. So no, it's not just because of Pope Francis. Although, you know, if someone thinks that, that's fine. Soul says, love to you, Luke. How do you do? I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Militant atheist sentence of Maxim Miller. What is the biggest Christ pill? I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, there's no, like, again, people are thinking about things in terms of, hold on. People are thinking about things in terms of being, like, rationally convinced of something. I mean, reason, if anything, reason is, like, downstream of spirituality. It's downstream of politics. It's downstream of all these, like, I want to say there's someone who had this quote that, like, reason is the handmaiden of the passions, and a lot of the times that is the case. Like if you want a kid to become an atheist, right? Let's say a kid is like a Christian and you want to become an atheist, like, you're not going to convince him with arguments. What you will convince him with is if you like subvert his family and subvert his church, and, like, you know, he loses his friends and, like, all this kind of stuff, and, like, he feels like there's no place for him, so then he runs to this fake internet atheist community, right? That's why back, 2004, so when, like, internet atheism was, like, actually cool, that's where a lot of people came to. I mean, I guess you could say I was part of that when I was a teen atheist, right? I mean, I was an atheist for like 10 years or something like that. And at the same time, if you want to convince someone of something else, you just, like, don't, appealing to people's reason is just, like, not a very small segment of the population that, like, actually responds to that. And, like, it's not the people who you think it would be. And it's the same way, like, all these kids nowadays, like, do you think like a 10-year-old who like doesn't want to go to church, or, let's say a 14-year-old who doesn't want to go to church, do you think their arguments are really about, like, something metaphysical, or do you think, like, oh, I want to coom, and, oh, I watch all this propaganda on TV where, like, Christians are always the villains? Like, really? It's not like a rational argument, and in the same way, like, rational arguments are not going to make you, like, they're mostly going to deceive you. Now, of course, I'm not against them. Like, you should be aware of them, but they're more decoration than people think. Like, that's not the real, like, the first thing that, I've done videos on this. Maybe I should do more, because I think people, I don't know, like, it's an important thing to remember, but, like, human reason is not calibrated to reality, okay? It's just not. Like, I mean, this is something, even if you're an atheist, I mean, actually, especially if you're an atheist, right? You should have this viewpoint, because human reason, it arose from evolution and accidental things, and, we're calibrated to living on the savannah and all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, if you're an atheist, you should believe that, but also, of course, the Christian does, because, we have the idea that humans are not, like, humans are not we're not created to understand the entire universe, right? But once you understand that, you realize that a lot of reason is just kind of a game that people play, right? It's a way of not necessarily convincing other people, but convincing yourself, and creating this hermetically sealed environment where you can reach the conclusions that you want, right? So that's why anyone who sits down and tries to be reasonable ends up finding what they already wanted anyway, right? If you're Karl Marx, you can sit down and write a whole book about capitalism and economics and stuff like that. Oh, wow, look at that. I reached the conclusion that I wanted beforehand, that I've always believed in, and now I have found some kind of rational justification for that. It's the same thing with Thomas Aquinas, right? Same thing with anyone, right? For better or for worse, that's how reason works, and it's very rare that it's used in some different way, right? People very rarely reach rational conclusions that they don't like, Okay. This is a Bitcoin transaction, or a Bitcoin super chat. Hey Luke, are you familiar with the VPL, the Viral Public License? What do you think of it compared to other copyright licenses like GPL? I have not heard of it. Let me just look at he gives a site. So he's really good. Yeah, I mean, so how is it different from a GPL if it's... I mean, is it like putting things in the public domain? Is that... Okay, maybe I should read these two paragraphs. This work is hereby relinquished of all associated ownership, attribution, and copyrights, and redistribution or use of any kind, with or without modification, is permitted without restriction, subject to the following constraints. Redistributions of this work, or any work that makes use of any of the contents of this works, by any kind of copywriting, dependency, linkage, or any possible derivation or form of combination must retain the entirety of this license. No further restrictions of any kind may be applied. Yeah, so I don't know, would that like force you to put works that use your work into the public? I mean, that's an interesting thing. I mean, if it works kind of like a copyright license, I don't know if that's how to read that. But that sounds good. It definitely does. I mean, as time has gone on, I will tell you with the book business, I've become more of a fan of just putting things in the public domain. I actually ended up putting landchat.net and other stuff in the public domain, just because, like, a lot of people will use these, like, annoying... I mean, it sounds fine. Like, I'll look this up later, but this sounds like a good idea. Maybe even preferable to the GPL in terms of what I care about, because even the GPL, like, you know, do you still have, like, I don't know, ownership? I'm not quite sure how it works. I don't know. I'd have to talk to a lawyer with it, but it sounds fine. But I will say, in the book business, one thing that I find super annoying. This is like extremely annoying. And I thought about posting a blog post about this. I don't think I finished it, so I didn't put it up. Maybe I'll finish it. But like, there are people who will, like, take ancient texts or medieval texts and transcribe them and put .org, and then they'll put some absolutely retarded. Now, these works are in the public domain by themselves. But, like, the translation or transcription or whatever that they put on the internet, they will put under some absolutely retarded Creative Commons license. And the thing with, like, those Creative... I lost the internet connection. The thing with those annoying Creative Commons licenses is people put them on things thinking that, I'm all about free culture. I'm going to put a no derivatives license or a no commercial license. I don't want people making money off this if I'm not. That's absolutely retarded, because in my case, like, there's so many works online now that are under licenses like that, where they can't really, I mean, you can really just copy and paste them and put them on websites and not make money off of them. But if someone like me, like, if I want to put them in a book, I can't use them, or at least I'm pretty sure I can't use them, even though, like, the texts originally are in the public domain. I don't know if that applies to the transcription. You need to talk to a lawyer about this. But there are a lot of things that I have not been able to print because I'm pretty sure that I can't, because these idiots put Creative Commons licenses on them and say, oh, you can't make money off this. You can't have a commercial license on this. Well, guess what? That work, until you die and 70 more years pass in American copyright laws, that will never be printed, because no matter what, like, no one is going to print this in a book, which costs money, unless they at least, you know, make the money to make up for that. But a Creative Commons no non-commercial license, that screws that up. Same thing with no derivatives, like, because it's kind of like legal gray areas, you know, because I'm not really sure how it works, but there are a lot of works where, I'm not quite sure if I put this in a compilation and sell it, is that no derivatives? Like, does that violate that? I'm not even sure. Again, the original work is in the public domain, but these people put these freaking Creative Commons license on them. So either way, I am much more a person like, I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, I do not believe in copyright. I do not believe it's a thing that should exist. I think we need to work to subvert it and destroy it. That's why I like the GPL. And if this works the same way, if it's even better, that's even better, right? Viral public license. Because copyright is geek and fey. It's not a real thing. It's not, I mean, it's so stupid. It's now so stupid that I'm in a place where the text is right in front of me and I can copy it and I can use it for this and I can print this out and I can get it to more people. But because some idiot put a Creative Commons license on it, it's all screwed up, you know? Of course, if someone is a lawyer here, and if you email me and tell me that, oh, that's not, they can't actually do that, you still have the right, you can still take the text and copy it, that's great. But, yeah, it just annoys me. Yeah, like, putting licenses on things is just retarded. Absolutely retarded. The only licenses you should ever put on something is that, like, something that subverts licenses, like the GPL or viral, you know, something like that. Constantine says, Luke, I know you hate your thoughts on type of questions. I mean, that's mostly what we do in live streams. I mean, obviously, I just hate people don't ask me what are your thoughts on Jordan Peterson anymore. So, like, it's only want to get the same thing over and over again. But what are your thoughts on libertarianism? I mean, right-wing libertarianism seems like a good third wave alternative for the United States and its polar, bipartisan, dualistic system. Thanks, no. Libertarianism is I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's fine if you're a libertarian. Like, this is a great example on, on rationalistic principles, right? You might say, like, libertarianism as an ideology makes a lot more sense, right? Than they're not even, like, Republicans, Democrats, like, they don't have a cohesive ideology anyway. So, of course, libertarianism is going to sound a lot better, like, in economics and most personal domains, right? But the thing is, like, it's hard to explain. It's like, if you're a libertarian in America, you're going to end up being a useful idiot, right? Or really any of these, like, LARPy third-party ideologies, because politics, like, people like libertarians, or a lot of these ideological people, they have this idea that politics is about, like, I need to convince other people of this. Like, I need to, it's like a rationalistic exercise. And the genre of people that are libertarians who are, like, higher IQ, like, I don't know, white males capable of, like, divorcing their personal egos from an issue and looking at things objectively and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can do that. Most people cannot. Like, that is not the level they're operating on. You know what I mean? It's not... and you end up being a useful idiot because you're ideologically driven, and everyone else in politics, especially the left, but, kind of Republicans as well, they are willing to manipulate things cynically for their own political ends, right? And if you're not willing to do that, and libertarianism is basically the opposite of that, it's about diminishing political power, which outside of libertarianism, there is just no market for. That's like just a worse strategy. I mean, politics is not about reason. It's about winning. It's about your party winning, okay? And what your party endorses is actually it's less important. So, no, I don't really care about libertarianism. I mean, I think there have been a lot of libertarian, like, right libertarian thinkers that are worth reading. I mean, I have, bandwidth is out. Gonna wait like 2 seconds for it to come back on. So, like, I think there are libertarians that are, like, worth reading and stuff, like, as an intellectual exercise. I mean, I have Rothbard's Man, Economy, and State over there and stuff like that. But, like, the idea that it's like, oh, I'm going to vote for the Libertarian Party is nutty. Although I will say I heard in the past week there was some Libertarian convention, and the based and red-pilled people are taking over. What is it? The Mises Caucus. And if that's good, that's great. But, like, you have, like, libertarians especially, they have to think about, like, they can't just be about, oh, let's deregulate everything right now. You have to think about things, like, as if they're real, because they are real. Like, I mean, of course, now having a libertarian, like, at a local party, or, like, someone who's, like, more libertarian inclined is not that bad. Like, if it's just someone who's going to reduce property taxes at a local level, or, reduce some regulations, I mean, that's fantastic. I endorse that. But at a national level, like, it's just kind of a LARP. I like the problem with national politics is not that, like, people have a bad ideology. Like, it's not about ideology, it's about power. Those are very different things. And ideology is a little cloak they put in front of you to, I don't know, to run you around like a little bull in a bullfight. And that's how libertarians at a national level have been. Like, they end up cucking their own people because they do things like that. But, I mean, there are, like, different levels to it. Obviously, like Ron Paul, of course, he fought for, he would, do earmarking to get funding for his own district and stuff like that. Like, he existed in the system, but he was still kind of, he wasn't being entirely ideologically stupid about it. So, I mean, or a great example would be immigration. Like, if you're an ideological libertarian who thinks there should be, like, open borders, the absolute stupidest thing you could do is endorse open borders in America, because, like, libertarianism is going to be absolutely swamped with people who don't give a crap about personal liberty or any of this LARPy stuff. I mean, that's a pretty good example of where libertarians screw themselves. Okay. Let me bring up something. Okay, so $5 from a dart. Oh, sorry, this thing came up. $5 from Adarsh. Yep, I'm just wasting time right here. So, sorry. $5 from Adarsh. Hello, I'm going to make a long argument about Jordan Peterson that you might roll your eyes out. This is not a thoughts on Jordan Peterson, so I hope you read this. It's not too long, slightly longer than the donation limit. Okay, I'll look at it. So he's going to say, I've been observing your interactions with YouTube Jordan Peterson fan. I feel like I don't really have any Jordan Peterson fans here. People just ask me about him. In your live streams for a lot, not Weinstein or someone whose goal is to show that belief in God is overwhelmingly intuitive because of how true it is in the Jungian sense. Not that all it is are Jungian things going on in your brain. Furthermore, his "I act as if God exists" is not he's really not there, like you may think, but rather he's arguing against materialism. The moral reality and implications of a moral God is way more important than just believing in a mechanism of the creation of the universe. I fully agree, though, that too often people come away from this group with thinking a metaphorical belief is sufficient when it really isn't. You may still agree with these views I've laid out as well. I'm not saying you agree either way, but I would like to hear your comments on the view instead of the clearly faulty materialistic view. No, I mean, Jordan Peter, no. I think I don't know what you're doing, but, like, materialism means different things. You seem to be using it in the way where it means, like, oh, I don't care about spiritual things, like higher level things, okay? That's not the same thing as materialism as, like, a scientific view. Jordan Peterson operates as if all there is matter, okay? Now, it's one thing to say, in this world, oh, there are reasons to, like, believe in something high, or a Jungian sense of things, and, like, oh, like, God has some, like, existence and some, like, level of, I mean, Jung, at least, I will say, he at least kind of, he did his archetype stuff, but he also said, well, there's an archetype for God, but that isn't relevant to God's existence, right? He might be there, he might not. Jordan Peterson, like, only talks as if, I mean, it's kind of like a double lose, the way I look at it, because he's basically acting as if, he's talking as if there's nothing but material reality, right? And at the same time, he's saying, oh, but the reason you believe in God is, like, for this, like, practical, it's basically, oh, like an emotional reason, right? And the thing is, the way I look at it is, if Jordan Peterson actually believed in God, he has all the motivation and all the reason to say it all the time, and he doesn't. And because he is so ensconced in this, like, view of the universe, I don't know, maybe we could call it something other than materialist, if that's, like, an unclear word, but, like, he is a materialist. Like, there is no sense, like, he's talking about higher level concepts, but he thinks of them as being a function, like they are something built on top of the material, right? Oh, you know, we have evolution and it creates complex things and it creates our brains, and our brains have psychological needs and all this kind of stuff. That is his way of looking at things, okay? And that is perfectly in sync. You know, I'm less familiar with Brett Weinstein stuff, but yeah, I have a bajillion opportunities to endorse, to say he believes in God or endorse faith, and he doesn't, okay? And he has every reason to, because it's in sync with his ideology, but he really just doesn't believe in it. And it's worse than just being a materialistic atheist and not believing in it, because he's basically, he's selling people something that tastes like God, but it isn't. It's like this, instead of, I don't know if I'm even being clear here. But we might be agreeing on things. We might just be saying things in different ways. So, like, 5 seconds. I really just don't like the thing that religious people or Jordan Peterson people say, where it's like, well, atheists have to believe in like some kind of spiritual thing to have morality. And that's just, like, not, I mean, that's not even a good argument. Like, that's not, you know, I mean, it's obviously not true, because there are plenty of atheists who, like, well, many of them are total degenerates, but there are some that aren't like that. I mean, I look at myself when I was young. Well, that was pretty bad, but, like, I could have been a lot worse. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's my way of looking at it. And, of course, in an atheistic worldview, like, there are reasons to have moral behavior. Like, moral behavior is some kind of evolutionary emergent norm. Like social behavior is something good, or not social behavior, but good social behavior. Like there's a reason for believing that exists, independent of God, right? Even in like religious thinking, there's a difference between, moral law and, I guess Levitical law, stuff like that. Like there's natural law. There are things that are morally true or false independent of God, right? So that's something that philosophers have taught, like religious philosophers have talked about, and it's true of atheism as well. Like if you believe, if you don't have a belief in God, right? So I mean, yes, I do think that Jordan Peterson has a perfectly materialistic view of the world, and it's even worse because it's not even like a smart one that atheists have. It's like, I don't know, or not atheists don't actually have those beliefs often. I think I did, like, on morality when I was an atheist, but like you really just most of them just like don't care about it, so let's see here. Okay, waiting for my internet to come back on so I can read. Okay, here we go. Oop sends in some XMR. How much milk should I drink in a day? Have you looked into Erbit? It's a it's not on milk. Milk is like lazy food for me. It's what I consume if I'm too lazy to make something else. I don't know if I recommend drinking large amounts of milk. I mean, the thing with milk is like milk is good for you. It's like basically the best liquid you can drink, aside from water, obviously. But like the thing about milk is if you drink so much of it, like there have been days where if I'm too lazy to make something, I will just drink 1 gallon of milk. And that's like kind of suboptimal. There are like hormones in milk and things like that you don't want to get too much of. So I wouldn't recommend drinking, like you should probably just be eating meat and other stuff, like, but it also depends on your biology if you're really fit to drink milk or not. So like, yeah, I wouldn't say like milk is good for like putting on weight and stuff like that in like a more or less healthy way. Obviously, like whole milk, don't drink skim milk ever. But like I wouldn't like I just look at it as kind of a lazy way of getting calories or like animal fat and stuff like that. So have you looked into Erbit? Yeah. People ask me about Erbit every week. Some guy was emailing me about it like yesterday, I think. I might eventually get one. It's a self-hosted social network, i.e. a blockchain-based networking protocol built on top of TCP/IP that covers multiple computers can use to do things together. Yes, I know about it. I've known about it for like 5 years. Never bothered to get myself a planet. Maybe I will eventually. I'm not quite sure. Max sends in some XMR. Says, I sent you an email because my questions didn't fit the 300 characters limit. Okay, I will read that. Where is it? Okay, here it is. I think that's it. Well, I got an email from another Max that I think is... He probably just accidentally emailed from another address. So, some questions. 1, because you rarely make not-related podcasts, I'm looking for podcasts like it. Do you know any other? No, I don't. Flatly, I just don't. 2, what about other YouTubers like you? None. I don't know. I don't really watch YouTube. What do you mean by like me? I mean, there are other... I mean, in technology, there's Mental Outlaw, who started out as a copycat channel of mine, which is now like way bigger than my channel. But like most tech YouTubers are like big cringe now. Like they've gotten really bad. But in terms of me in general, I don't know. I don't know if that's what you're... 3, the YouTube... This guy's really milking a bunch of questions here. 3, the YouTuber, The Hated One, recently made a video about how phones are better for privacy than desktops. Have you watched it? What do you think about it? It's bandwidth is running out. Hold on. Okay, I will... Oh, come on, internet. Be connected. Be connected. Okay, now it's going. Okay, so the YouTuber Hated One recently made a video about how phones are better for privacy than desktops. Have you watched it? What do you think about it? That sounds very stupid. That sounds extremely stupid. I don't know how he is going to argue that, because I don't know how. I'm trying to think what he could even say there. I mean, cell phones leak so much metadata, even if you're running 100% free software. So cell phones leak so much metadata, it is impossible for me to imagine that ever being the case. I can't even imagine like a device that has cameras on it and has a GPS thing on it. Like, my desktop doesn't have GPS on it, Like, I can't imagine that being the case. I don't know if I think I've heard of that guy that hated one. I don't know if he's serious or not. Like, I don't know. But just right off the bat, not knowing what he's saying, that definitely sounds like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Maybe he has good reasons for saying it. I have no idea, though. 4. Are you still working on landchad.net? Some of the tutorials are outdated, like the Nextcloud and the Cgit one. Yeah, the Nextcloud one has always been out of date because it was made by someone who wasn't me and who wasn't... I think he made it specific to each version or something. And I've never installed it, so I don't ever keep up with the Nextcloud one. Because I don't give a crap about Nextcloud because it's totally stupid. Because anyone who knows how to use a command line, just use rsync and sync your files or something like that. I don't know. I guess Nextcloud can do a directory on your computer that stores stuff, which just use rsync for. I have no, Nextcloud, I don't know why people use it. It's probably normie friendly. You can probably get an app. That's probably the real reason. Number 5. This guy, again, he's milking a bunch of questions. I really want to make my own blog and some sites. What are good resources on learning HTML and CSS? Where did you learn it? I don't know. HTML and CSS are so easy, you don't need a place to learn it. Just look something up look something up if you don't know how to do it. Like, it's not even HTML is not even a real language. I mean, it's not serious enough to care. CSS is in the same way. 6. I am okay. This is too many questions. Okay, I'm gonna skip the Michelle Thomas one just because I don't want to answer. This guy can't monopolize everyone's time. 7. In your blog posts, you rate. You said that Qt browser fits the best. Why don't you use it? No, it doesn't. It's written in Python. That's like the worst thing. Qt browser is notably slower than everything else, and it breaks all the time. Or at least last time I used it. No, Qt browser is awful because it's written in Python. I use Firefox, or on Brave or on Larbs I have Brave installed because it comes with more sensible defaults. 8. What's your opinion about Monero? I don't think about it. Or Wownero. I don't think about it. Okay. So Jordan sends in $1. I use Gentoo, by the way. Thank you for that comment. Okay. Oh, I see. This guy did send 2. So, not sure if you saw this chat, but the general idea of VPL, as I understand it, de-author the work, limiting the baggage necessary with proper attribution, combine MIT-style permissiveness with GPL-style copyleft. I mean, that sounds like a good idea. This seems to make it rather similar to something in the public domain and seems to provide no limitation for inclusion within price projects. Does VPL on a book require circulation of its PDF? Yet it provides me with the question of enforcement. If no author who has the rights to enforce IP, nobody, anybody, question mark. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. You'd have to talk to a lawyer about it. And I do, yeah, I think once you, a VPL on a book, does it require circulation of the PDF? No, I mean, I couldn't imagine that being the case. In the same way that, like, if you release music under the VPL, if someone plays that in public, they don't have to supply people with the music file necessarily, right? I that would be really ridiculous if that were the case. Luke says, I'm the guy who asked you about rationalizing faith before. I'm aware it's a flawed way of viewing reality, but I still struggle to overcome it. I feel a genuine internal struggle like a knee-jerk reaction. Do you think I should read things like apologetic works? No, like that's like the opposite of what you want to do. I mean, I don't want to say it's the opposite. Maybe you could get some enjoyment, but like your apologetic works, I don't know. Maybe I just have a different psychology than some people. I'm just very uninterested in that, and I find it very like apologetic works are for people who, I don't know. It's like self-help books. That's basically how I view them. Like people who are competent and put together are never going to read self-help books. And I feel like they use them as a crutch. And I kind of feel the same way about apologetics. That's why I've never been interested in it. Now, maybe for your different psychology, it might be better for you. I don't know. I might be speaking from my own personality. So I don't want to say don't do it, but my reflex, as you saw, was to be like, that sounds stupid. I was wondering whether you could offer advice based off your change from atheism into believing again. Well, it wasn't through apologetics. Like, well, really, it was. I mean, if you want to take some kind of reason, like rational footsteps that I took, it was more I became more knowledgeable about classical philosophy and Hermeticism and Neoplatonism and things like this. And the weird thing is, like, this is how people are nowadays. Like, they're so brainwashed against religion that, it's like people nowadays who, like, all these people who are like, oh, I love Buddhism, right? Because Buddhism, like, it's not really a religion. It's really just some stupid life philosophy that, like, inane Westerners like now. But, like, there was a sense in which, oh, yeah, I don't believe in religion, but, oh, yeah, this Hermetic stuff, oh, this Neoplatonic background, oh, wait, it's, like, exactly the same thing as early Christianity. I mean, with changes, right? Basically, early Christianity is, like, the more sane variety. So, that was the thing that made me think, oh, maybe I should, like, contemplate classical theism as a thing. But, it also, I mean, there's a personal level to it as well that is specific in your environment. Either way, I mean, you're on the right track. I don't want to, dismiss what you're saying. You're on the right track if you're even having these kind of this cognitive dissonance. But, like, if you're trying to pry yourself out of the rational hole with more reason, just don't. I mean, even atheists talk about this, right? The idea of logical bubbles, because they'll say this of religions. They don't think of it in terms of themselves, but they'll say, oh, a religion is like a rational bubble. Like, and you always have a reason, there's always some canned response for why you can't escape it. And you will see that the same is true of atheism. And you have to have a distrust in human reason, okay? You can have that for Darwinian reasons. You can have it for, Christian reasons. But you have to realize that your brain, like your rational faculties, it is not automatically the best guide to anything. In fact, it's often usually the worst. It's usually a way of confirming, what a part of you already wants to believe. He also says, also personally, the thing that got me back into faith was the traditional Latin Mass. Well, that's good then. Okay. .NET developer sends in some XMR. Is writing software using .NET cringe? I would probably estimate that to be very cringe. But, what are you going to do? I didn't know anyone still did that. Or actually, I want to say, is it like BTC Pay, like, written with .NET crap? That's why it's so annoying. Because the BTC Pay developer is like a Windows guy. Imagine being a Bitcoiner, but also a Windows user. I don't even understand. At Linux Fest, I did that video the other day saying I was going to Linux Fest. And part of my annoyance is the fact that there's so little overlap between free software people and cryptocurrency people. Because free software people, a lot of them, they're kind of like anti-monetary almost, like at least the like leftists, they're kind of anti-monetary. But like the cryptocurrency people are, I have to just say, they are retarded with technology, especially with free software. Like the number of people who are using proprietary wallets and crap like that. Either way, I think it's funny that there's, BTC Pay, I think has .NET crap in it. I can't imagine being like, oh, I care so much about my, like, monetary security. I'm going to use this, like, digital bearer bond technology, Bitcoin. Oh, but I'm also going to use Microsoft Windows. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But one of the reasons I was going to, I really want to bridge that gap. My talk at Linux Fest is going to be partially about cryptocurrencies. And why they're important, why they're free software. Like, people don't think about them as that, but it's the only way to transact value without using proprietary software, including crappy things like the thing, what is it that the FSF made? Some stupid GNU. I'm gonna talk about it in my talk as well. That, like, the name is just like GNU Talos, which is like basically them taking the proprietary banking system and building this this free software on top of it that issues notes and all this kind of stuff. And it's really because Richard Stallman doesn't want to use another Richard Stallman note. He doesn't want to use cryptocurrency because that's too private. Because he wants people to be taxed because he's like a socialist or whatever. So that's how it is. Hi Luke, greetings from Germany. I'm interested in knowing your opinion on moving to the U.S. To work in the IT industry. FANG. Oh, don't work for a FANG company. Don't do that. For a few years, as a conservative white guy, that's even worse. That's even worse. I mean, if you're working for a FANG company, at least make sure you're like some kind of transgender, like Syrian refugee with Ukrainian flags. It's just suicide doing that. Like, I've had friends who worked in passing in those businesses. I would not dream of doing that. I don't know, maybe you'll make a lot of money if you can get a job, but I just, that is such a turnoff to me, I would not consider it. He says, I'd be willing to put an progressive act on, etc. No, that's even worse. That is even worse. Like, to cuck for the money just to start something on my own afterwards. No, that's even worse. Like, this, I can't imagine, like, if you're going to work for Google, be honest about everything. Be honest about you being based in Red Pill. Don't do any of this, let me give moral consensus. Here, let me give, like, moral authority to these people. Let me, like, show my subservience to them. That's the stupidest thing you can do. I mean, I did that. I was cucking like that in a university for a while. I mean, it didn't even matter that much when push came to shove. But, if you try and keep your head down and you try to you're really just tacitly giving your moral approval to these people. If you're constantly, like, pretending to be one of them, it's just so stupid. Don't do that. Like, maybe you can make money off of it. I don't know, but you're making the world for everyone else a worse place. That's all I can say. And my one regret, I have many regrets, and all my regrets amount to, I wasn't extreme enough in the past. Like, I didn't move to the country soon enough. Oh, I didn't, I didn't make more stands. I wasn't, like, more intransigent. I didn't drop out of the university quicker. Like, those are my regrets. Now, maybe it'll be different. If you can make $1 million, maybe that'll be worth your time. But I doubt it. I think you're going to be spiritually oppressed. And, if you're just doing some contract work for one of these companies and, like, you're not really involved, and the worst thing that happens is you get some stupid diversity and inclusion email every once in a while, fine, that's fine. Hey, make some money. That's fine. Just make sure you're not doing anything evil for their company, or you're not, like, making the world a worse place. But this whole, let me go along to get along, I don't believe in that anymore. And yeah, you can make money, you can be part of the system by doing that, but that, like, money isn't everything. Like, you're independent, like, you need to start putting a price on yourself. Like, how much is my dignity worth? Okay? Is it worth $1 million? Is it worth $100,000? Is it for you to cuck out like that? That's just what I'm saying. And I think nowadays, and mind you, it might be, like, I've had friends who 5 years ago worked for Google or something like that. But I will say, it is accelerating so fast. Things are getting so bad so fast. And it's the same thing with universities. I tell people, I have no intention of sending any of my kids to universities. You shouldn't go to universities. Yes, maybe if you have some engineering degree right now, you're still okay. But things are getting worse so fast that just don't even consider that a possibility, and you will have a more stress-free life thinking about building institutions and doing things external to them. Okay? So if you want to use any of that as a stepping stone in your career, use it at your own risk. That's all I have to say. Okay? There might be in your specific, you might be sitting there saying, I'm just going to have this job and only for this long, and it's not going to be that bad, Luke. It's not going to be that bad. That's fine. If you think that's how it is, that's fine. But I will just say, in general, I'm disgusted by any of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to speak for your life, though. You do what you want. Cargo Cult Consultant sent in some XMR. Seems in Orthodox Christianity you found the more human Eurasian Mediterranean version of Christianity, Germans with their materialistic Protestantism cuck the West. Well, it wasn't just Germans and Protestantism. I think it's hard, like the further you're out of the Western Church, it becomes more obvious that like Catholicism and Protestantism, although they are very divergent from each other on certain things, they have the same fallacious reasoning behind them. And it's just taking scholasticism too serious. And of course, in Protestantism, it has all the same kind of intellectual flaws, but they just reach different and insane religious conclusions. And so now you have Protestants that just do whatever. Protestantism is just like, I mean, the just means any kind of heresy they'll do. Like there are some Protestants that like seem Christian, and then there are some that are kind of based, and then there are some that are just insane. And most, that's where gay stuff comes from. It literally is where gay stuff, like every insanity in the world right now, was filtered through Northeastern Protestantism at this point. You have all these psycho Puritans and Unitarians and stuff like that produced all of the stuff we have to deal with. But that sounds too mold bug pilled. I don't want to excuse other people of their subversive influence. But Adarsh says, interesting viewpoint. I wonder what he's at. Oh, yeah. It's going to come for him if he says he believes in God. I think people would be very happy if he did. But he's so high on his tism. He's so high on that materialistic viewpoint. He can't do it because he doesn't believe in God. He just, God. Like the idea of God is really cool. Oh, what does it mean for me? Blah, blah, blah. That is the problem. That's even worse than atheism as far as I'm concerned. If you don't believe in God. Now, if you believe in God and you say, there are psychological reasons to believe in God, that's fine. But if you're saying we should believe in something that isn't true, and then I should deconstruct what belief means and make it just inane, postmodern, as some people would say, that's basically what Jordan Peterson is doing. Anyway, did you have a chance to look at that relativity stuff I sent you last? Oh, okay. Who's that guy? Also, I did read that book that you wanted me to. I don't think I worded my criticism in a way that communicated what I meant, because I think I was suffice it to say, I don't know, maybe I should write a blog post about it, but the book did not answer the questions that it's just the same stuff that I heard before. Like I understand that about relativity. I think I was not clear about making my point, which I think I put it in terms of the Doppler effect. It's not really Doppler effect in terms of I'll write it out. That'll be better. Also, any tips for de-brainwashing boomer parents? It's hard to live when all they do is reflexively make brain-dead political takes. I've tried, but I can't get through to them. If boomers are beyond saving, what about fixing young people like in college? Also impossible. It's kind of a waste to... I don't believe in convincing people of politics. Politics is very much downstream of like who a person is, what their physiognomy is, what they view as being... Like most boomers are actually quietly based, but they've just been like so cucked into submission. Especially, I mean, a lot of boomers, like, they were segregationists. They're just not talking about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, boomers, they are very calibrated in, like, being kind of cowardly about things. Like, they just don't talk about things, or they'll say just, the Dems are the real racists and stupid things like that, that is... And there are reasons for them to say that. Like, I think a lot of people are dismissive with boomers like that. Like, in terms of... Don't talk to your parents about politics. Talk to them about, if you want to convince them of something or move them to something, move them away from consuming product and watching TV and crap all the time, okay? Or move them away from that kind of stuff. Don't focus on what they say that they believe. Same thing about politics in people in general, right? So why do people become leftists? Like, why do young kids become leftists, okay? It's easy. It's actually what we talked about earlier. Like, when people leave or join religion, it has more to do with social things than it does with, like, some argument. And it's the same thing with kids nowadays who are getting brainwashed and groomed and all this kind of stuff. The best way, and this is a Kaczynski point. People like talking about Kaczynski stuff, but he mentions this, that one thing that modernity tries to do is it takes away your felt ability to act on the world around you and make progress and control your life and things like this. And so when you're a kid, you are taught that you can't do anything, okay? We have psychotic helicopter parents and things like that. You are always having to watch your words so you don't like say anything offensive. There's this like antipathy towards people who like every movie, every TV show. The villain is always like the blonde Chad, the guy who's like popular. He works out. He's fit. He takes care of himself. That's always the villain. Who's the good guy is always the absolute loser, the nerd, the guy who is ugly. He says awkward things. He's not in control of his body, stuff like that. You know, that is how things are presented to kids. And then they go to college and they just get kind of inducted. Like really the objective of education, if you look at it in terms of a brainwashing angle, is not to tell kids, you know, orange man bad, mustache man bad. That's not the point. That's not the real brainwashing. The real brainwashing is to get children to hate their parents, to hate themselves, to hate everything, to hate their religion, to hate their race, to hate their country, to hate everything. Because once they have severed themselves from everything, they have nothing but this new cult for them to join. And that's what happens, right? So how do you get someone out of that? Okay? This sounds really gay, but you have to be friends to those people, okay? You have to speak to them at their level. Not necessarily give consent to what the psychotic beliefs that they've been brainwashed to believe or whatever. But you have to, people often say, like, if you want to change someone's politics, like, convince them to start working out and losing weight and stuff like this. Put them in control of their own bodies. Like, this is, like, how these, like, people think is they cannot, I'm fat and ugly, I can't control anything. I have economic problems. Capitalism has failed, all this kind of stuff, because they feel like they can't, they don't have any, like, initiative. That sounds like a kind of a boomer term, but like agency, maybe agency is a better term, right? So a lot of people, you deprive people of agency, and this is the Kaczynski point. They naturally gravitate to leftism, because leftism is this kind of collectivist mentality that says we as a society have to do this. We have to act collectively, and you are a non-being if you're not part of this collective, right? So the real solution to convincing people or to red pilling people is not, look at all the times. I'm trying to think of an example. It's not the spurry things that you see in copy pasta, right? The way you red pill people is putting them in control of their own lives, getting them away from these negative people, checking them if they're sarcastic, checking them if they're doing negative things, being negative towards themselves or other people, encourage them to eat well, eat whole meats, eat good food, exercise, get a tan, a real tan outside, not in a tanning booth, do physical labor, work out, whatever it is. These things will naturally, they're just the natural solution for all this kind of stuff, right? That's how it works. So, we're partially waging a hormonal war. There's a way that's true. But yeah, this idea of, like, how do we convince people like that? You just have to improve their lives. And the system, the worst thing the system can do, obviously, is mutilate these people beyond repair, okay? If they destroy their lives so much, like if a woman has, like, been promiscuous for, like, 10 years and she's 35 and, like, doesn't have any marriage prospects, like, she's more or less, I don't want to say she's more or less screwed, but she's kind of screwed. Like, she's so engrossed in that system, she can't do anything. Same thing with the transgender stuff. That's exactly what that is. Get people to physically mutilate their bodies. That is a lifelong commitment, right? So that is what the system's trying to do. And you can do, what you have to do on people around you is you have to bring them out of that. You have to give them control of their own life. You have to make them feel in control, because they are in control. Anyone who says, like, I can't fix my life is just delusional. Like, you don't know how, you would, if you lost your legs tomorrow, like if you were in a wheelchair, you would just regret all the things you could do before, okay, that you can do right now. You know what I mean? Like, people have so much power in their lives to make money, to do things their own way, to be empowered of their own life, and, like, they're just making excuses, and you have to make sure that people aren't making those excuses. So yeah, rational argument, that's not it. It's not about red pilling people with, like, facts about like race or Jews or something. That's cringe. That's cringe stuff. The reality, like whatever red pill truths, they will come later. They will come naturally when you let someone stand on their own and make their own decisions and be confident and look at things reasonably. Then they will be able to be red pilled, right? But that is politics is downstream of that, right? So that's my answer to that. Okay, I talked for a long time. I got to read a lot of donations. Local rice farmer says, "Hi Luke, your view of how the internet is supposed to be is attractive with federation and unique sites, but YouTube makes discovery easy. What's your ideas on discovery when it comes to a distributed internet?" Well, the thing about federation is you can actually do discovery pretty well once you have kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Critical mass of people in it. So that's the advantage of just hosting your own site. Federation is a little better because you do have that discoverability. Obviously, right now we don't have it. It has to be word of mouth, right? So I got to tell people, well, there are these federated sites you can use. You can host your own website. I really should have an official web ring for everyone who makes a website with me. That's what I should. Does anyone have any good web ring software that I could use? Because that would be really cool. Like, that's back in the 90s. What you would do for discoverability is you join a web ring. It's kind of like a club of sites. And you put a little thing on your website saying, I'm a member of this web ring. And you can press a thing that goes to your neighbor sites. Like, oh, here's the next site. Here's the previous site. Or click for a random site. Or here's just the directory of all of them. So that was a good way of discoverability on the internet. But right now, we don't have a perfect solution other than, I guess people like me need to, I probably need to make that a thing. I really need to do a web ring and do something like that. So if there's something with very simple software, I might be able to do that. I'm very picky about I don't want anything too extensive, and it has to be something really simple. But that's the way to do it. And of course, there are sites like, what is it, Wibby.me, WIBY.me. It's a search engine that only has kind of personal websites and like very non-bloated stuff. But right now we're kind of making it up as we go. But things like web rings and things like federation, they actually do solve this problem. Like we are further along than we were in the 90s. Federation is a big development. It's just not perfectly implemented yet, and we don't have it. So, and RSS, like, it's crazy that RSS is the most useful thing in the universe. And it didn't exist till like 2004 or something like that. Like, it's crazy to think the internet existed before then. I mean, it was, RSS would have been more useful in the 90s, but now we can reuse it. Now, my second talk at Linux Fest, which hasn't been formally approved, they haven't put out the final approvals for the later talks. I put in this application real late. But it actually is on this question. How can we re-engineer the web? How can we get back to Web 1.0, basically? I think the title of the talk was like, Reject Tradition, Return to Web 1.0 or something like that. So $5 from Ian, or Ian, whatever you preserves. Big fan. I love watching you get frustrated at your annoying fan base. Wow, thank you. That's what I do best. Anyways, could you suggest 5 must-read books for an uneducated Zoomer? Oh no, I'm gonna have to be annoyed with this one. No, uneducated Zoomer. 5 books right off the top of my head. Man, I don't book recommendations. Maybe I should put it in. I don't know. It depends on where you are intellectually. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're asking fiction, I have no clue. If you're asking nonfiction, I could probably give you some, but like, probably ones that I would. All right, I'm gonna offer you cringe books. Cringe meaning books I consider now cringe, but they were extremely based and red-pilled when I first read them. Okay, big one is Steven Pinker's Blank Slate. Now, Steven Pinker, mega cringe, okay? Now, you read this book and it'll sound very based and red-pilled, but he is very big cringe. He wrote a book about why the Enlightenment is so heckin' great. Read it to your book, read it to your thinker. However, Blank Slate, very red-pilling book. It's about, I think the subtitle is The Modern Denial of Human Nature. It's more or less, all the things that, just read it. That's a decent book to read. It was one of the few books I read when I was much younger. This is probably 10 years ago. I read it and I was like, man. I mean, it was a long book, sort of, but I wanted more of it. It was good. That was a good book. maybe I'll recommend, again, more cringe books that, again, if you're a normie, that might be worth reading. Nassim Taleb stuff, maybe Anti-Fragile. Again, Nassim Taleb, he also is cringe now, big cringe, became a COVID cultist. However, Anti-Fragile, good book. Now, all the like real, you might be saying, why are you recommending cringe books? Well, cringe books are for people. You have to talk to people on their level, and I'm going to assume that you're lower on this level. So those will be my two, Blank Slate and Anti-Fragile, for more like normie people. Blank Slate first, probably, then Anti-Fragile, and of course, Taleb actually hates Pinker too. He hates everyone actually, trying to think, higher level stuff you'll be able to figure out. Like once you read more stuff, you'll be able to figure out like what. But you don't need book recommendations from me. You'll find plenty of books. All right, I need to get through these donations. Buy some poppy seeds and plant them, I guess, says Couts, giving in some XMR. Okay, well, I don't know what that's about. .NET C# .NET developer sends them some more XMR. .NET is good for business and making software that only only you can maintain to keep your job. Hard to explain. There's like a kind of a cult following with it. Like of anything. This is the funny. So this shirt, I've probably had it for like maybe a month. Every time I wear, this is my most popular shirt. If you want to talk to strangers, just wear some Buc-ee's merch. That's what a nice proud Buc-ee's shirt, because people will just come up to you. Like, and I don't just mean every once in a while. I mean, if I wear this shirt, half the people I meet will be like, "Oh, dude, I heckin' love Buc-ee's. I love consuming Buc-ee's product." Like Buc-ee's is like a cult phenomenon. I don't know if people know about this. It's in like Texas and the Southeast. It's just on the highways. They have ads all over the place, but yeah, Buc-ee's is like crazy. All right, so Correa sends in $5. Hey Luke, greetings from Brazil. Recently I listened to the Bicameral Mind episode of Not Related and was wondering with one can make an argument that all religions are a mere remnant of our bicameral mind, that all religions are simply social constructs for us to access that bicameral mindset, so to speak. Because of that, we should consider all religions something of the past. No, I mean, you may have gotten it back. So, like, the point there is that the religious experience, so the bicameral mind, the idea is, like, basically you have two different brains that were not, like, fully connected back in the day, right? Like, associating them as some kind of cultural thing that we learn early on. Okay? Crazy idea. But no, like, the religious experience would be the experience of a divided mind person having some kind of sync between the two hemispheres, okay? So we always have that all the time. It's not a remnant. It's something we now experience all the time. That's more or less consciousness. That's his argument. So I think you got it backward. See, he says, I'm not an atheist, but I can see one making that argument. What do you think? Thanks. Okay. Well, yeah. That's kind of what he's getting at. So, like, yeah, the Julian James argument is, like, basically early religious experiences, or, like, when people hear gods talking to themselves. Okay, that was more or less two hemispheres of the brain, one reaching conclusions and sending some derivation to the other, right? But yeah, we don't have that. So, Vietnamese person sends in some XMR. Despite 85% of China being lactose intolerant, North China has an average height of 5'9", 5'10", while South China has an average height of 5'7", 5'8". The difference is that North China consumes more meat than South China. Shocking, since I thought Asians were shorter than whites due to I guess he meant lactose intolerance. Well, I mean, height, okay, there are two things with height. Like, height is different across different races. Height is also highly, like, if you are malnourished as a child, you are much more likely to not reach your genetic mean, right? So if everyone in the world is, like, perfectly nourished, or at least, like, bare minimum nourished, they're going to reach their genetic potential height, and those are going to be different across different racial groups. It might be that the difference between North and South Chinese people is racial. It might be that they're, milk or meat or something like that. I mean, there's a pretty good chance it has to do with meat consumption. But yeah, it's definitely not like you don't need milk specifically. It's not like milk magically makes you taller or anything magically makes you taller. It's just you will not reach your genetic your genetic potential if you are not well educated, well nourished when you're a child, right? I mean, that's one of the big difference. Like Indo-Europeans, I mean, you probably know, maybe others don't, but early Indo-Europeans were totally mogging on all the manlets around them because like everyone around them was like malnourished farmers, and they were drinking a bunch of milk and getting like a full nutrition. So they were like, it's basic. Let me pull up the normal chat and see people complaining about it not going through. Okay, we're back. All right. So, sent in. So Maximar says, "Is voting a Gnostic and thus heretical act?" No, it's not. Dawn says, "Luke, why are you dressed like an overgrown 10-year-old? On a serious note, why are men dressing down? Thoughts on men dressing... Well, I mean, I dress like this in my house. I actually, like, overdress in real life. I'm in my house. Like, I'm wearing a freaking t-shirt. And I'm wearing, like, jorts. I'm in my house. I don't wear stuff like this. I'll wear the Buc-ee shirt out. I will wear the Buc-ee shirt out. Usually don't wear jorts out, although I am a firm jorts proponent in theory, but I really just wear them at the house. So, yeah, I'm sorry I'm not going to get dressed up. Well, I guess technically more people are going to see me during this live stream than just walking around. So maybe I should dress up for doing a live stream, but I'm not going to do that. On a serious note, thoughts on men dressing down. Should men wear more formal clothing when running errands, going to church, visiting friends, or does the way you dress matter less than you think we should? I mean, I would not even wear this kind of stuff out. I mean, again, I wear the Buc-ee shirt sometimes, but I wouldn't wear, like, shorts like this or stuff out, even to go to the grocery store. I probably overdress. I'll wear nicer shorts or like a polo or something like that. Or really my most generic, like I guess the simplest clothes I will wear is I will wear like a black shirt. I'll wear that a lot. But black is like kind of inherently more dressy. Like if you have a black t-shirt, it's a little more, I don't know. Yeah, I do feel like people should dress up. Not dress up, but like dressing up, wearing nicer is not any more difficult than wearing crap like this. Like, it's literally the same number of articles to put on a polo and a nicer pair of shorts. But, if you want to save money, if your kid's starting out, don't bother getting fancy clothes. It's fine. But the thing is, like, nice clothes, like, I got my nicer shorts for $20, same as every other pair of shorts, Luke says, what do you think about living entirely without a bank account? Banks are terrible. I live in Malta, though. So how practical would it be? Might vary from here in the U.S. Yeah, it's hard to get paid in a bank without having a bank account. That's a tricky thing. But yeah, I definitely endorse that. Bitcoin exists, so like savings accounts are basically obsolete, or index funds or all that kind of crap. So, yeah, you could probably do it, but getting paid, that might be a difficult thing. Because most people want to pay you in a bank. I would like to be able to get a salary on Bitcoin, though. That would be nice. Or Monero. Max says, I have a friend who works at Google, and he always says that they can identify who you are within the first keystroke in a search bar. Oh, yeah, that's definitely true. Oh, shoot. Internet's out again. I don't know, like, is it actually, so when I have low internet, is it just like going to audio, or is it just cutting out and you're not seeing anything? My bit rate is pretty low. Yeah, so as he said, I'll reread that in case it didn't go on. I have a friend who works at Google, and he always says that they can identify who you are within the first keystroke in the search bar. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how it is. Like, if you're trying to blend in at Google and try to pretend to be like some cringe blue-pilled, Ukraine-supporting, mask-wearing, vaccine-receiving normie, like, it's not going to work, Eric says, many libertarians are primed to become reactionaries with right-wing red-pilling. Sucks if they never grow out of it, though. Yeah, it does. I think around, like, 2015, 2016... most of like the solid people left libertarianism. You could probably say I was one of them. I wouldn't have ever described myself as a libertarian. I actually even went to some libertarian conferences. Or a FEE, like, which is Foundation for Economic Education. It's like libertarian stuff. I actually went to maybe a couple of their events in Atlanta. I went to one of their big conferences and I met a bunch of people. Actually, there were a bunch of like D-list celebrities I met there. This was way before I had a YouTube channel or anyone knew me. 2016, oh come on, bandwidth. I think during 2015, 2016, most of like the good libertarians kind of left that kind of stuff, and they're like, oh, we can actually just do based in red pilled. So I mean, there's not even a word. I don't know. Back in the day, you would call them alt-right, but like now that word is like totally distorted. I mean, alt-right used to just mean I vote for right parties, but I'm not a cringe Zio boomer. But now alt-right has been like totally just kind of co-opted, like forced memed by the media as like this, I don't know, like kind of to mean white nationalism, but like even more, even like extremer and out of the normies viewpoints. I don't know. But back in the day, you could just say they were becoming alt-right because that just meant anything. It was like a big tent thing. Now it's a very like general and feared term. But yeah, I mean, there are like I used to, oh shoot, I probably don't have this article on my website anymore. It was on one of my websites a while back, but I had an article about this, like how, because really what happens is right libertarians, a good thing about them is they at least see, like in the economic domain. Now, this isn't necessarily always a good thing because it sometimes leads them to stupid, cringe things. But they do see that in the economic domain, there is this kind of emergent norm, like, things that you don't understand in the economy, money and debt and all this kind of stuff. In a free market economy, there are reasons for certain merges to, or certain institutions to emerge and things like that, or certain like consensuses that might seem unfair, or the wage and price system. So they kind of see this, their solvency in the free market, right? However, they don't see that in the social domain. Because a lot of them are super libertine. Like a lot of libertarians, they're just like, they're like, oh, well, I don't see a reason for like this social constraint existing, so let's deconstruct it. And libertarians think that I'm for social freedoms and economic freedoms, and that's like the opposite of the truth. In reality, it makes sense to, be pro-economic deregulation because you understand the solvency of the market, but you also understand the solvency of human society and emergent traditional social norms, right? Really, social conservatism and economic freedoms, quote unquote, those go together. Like libertarianism, they think they're pro-freedom, but like it's not, like those two things are really like dissonant. And a lot of people who grew out of the like social, well, actually kind of both of them, like weirdly enough, libertarianism produces some of the smarter people, but then they like go to kind of the exact opposite of libertarians, at least on paper, in terms of, yeah, I'm not against economic controls or management of society, and I'm also obviously not against traditional morality and stuff like that. So, that's GitHub. Robert says, ever heard of the Biedermeier era of Germany? Time before 1815, 1845, before revolutions and Bismarck cucked Germany to subservience. You seem to preach the Biedermeier virtues: self-reliance, creator economy, and anti-city living and family values. I don't know about that period. Never really heard about it, But, I guess a lot of times I'll tell people that I'm kind of pro what people call dark ages. Like the Middle Ages was a great example of a good period. Again, like there's no period that is more severely or mendaciously maligned than the Middle Ages. But the Middle Ages was great because it was a period of massive decentralization, and people were very much in control of their lives, right? Even people who were nominally like serfs, right? And which actually not, serfdom is kind of exaggerated how many people lived as serfs anyway. But like the amount of control that people had over their own lives, they had more or less modern technology. Like they had, all the learning of the classical period, all the technology developed then. They had use of that. They lived in local communities that were very self-sustaining. They had some era of, or some, participation in commerce when needed, but it wasn't unreasonable. It's not like globalization now where it's like, something goes wrong in China, or there's some stupid hoax war in Ukraine, and like everything shuts down here, and our gas goes up by like twice. But yeah, I mean, so the Dark Age, quote unquote Dark Ages. I kind of like calling them the Dark Ages, even though it's like it's a Reddit term that's like false. Even Redditors know that it's like totally untrue to call the Dark Ages the Dark Ages, but there's a sense in which I like that appellation, because not because it's like dark in a bad sense, but dark in the sense that like it's kind of uncharted. Like it's this period of history where we weren't living in a panopticon. Like there wasn't some universal empire controlling people, but it was it was a decent period of in terms of like material standards of living, stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely not a bad period. But yeah, I've never heard that period in German life. But in a sense, like lots of European states, like the massive nation state didn't really exist in most of Europe. There would just be, here's a king who rules this area, and he doesn't even speak the languages of his people, and it doesn't really make a big difference what the king does. That's a good situation to live in. Adam says, Adam M sends in some XMR. What advice do you have for someone wanting to start their own online store? What platforms or software do you use? How do you accept crypto? Thanks. Oh man. So the easiest way, which I have not done, you can get a WordPress site and use, like WooCommerce. And they can do payment processing, I'm pretty sure. And they also have plugins for cryptocurrency. BTC Pay is like a self-hosted one that you can use, but you can also use custodial crypto. I mean, if you're just trying to start things out and you don't want to do everything perfect, you could probably use a custodial cryptocurrency exchange thing. So yeah, the easiest normie-friendly way, and also probably not normie-friendly way, is the WooCommerce plugin, which works on WordPress, and I think it might work on other things as well. But yeah, just starting as some kind of simple online shop. I mean, that is actually the easiest way to just make freaking money. I haven't done it, but just like sell merch for random stuff that is in the public domain. Like, I like Monero. Let me put Monero logos on T-shirts, and then have Zazzle print them out. Stuff like that. Which I'm pretty sure Monero's stuff is in the public domain, or at least you can license it and distribute or like sell stuff with it. So that's a good option. Like that's probably the easiest way to just basically make free money. So look into WooCommerce. There might be other ones as well, but honestly, your research is as good as mine if you look into it. There are probably other more lightweight ways of hosting it other than WordPress. WordPress like needs to just be shot. Like it's terrible. Like it really needs to be slimmed down. Like static site generators have so drastically become superior to WordPress, it's not even funny. You might be able to use Hugo with WooCommerce. I don't know how it works. I know that Kai Hendry... Oh, okay. Actually, I remember this. Kai Hendry did a video a couple years ago actually talking about having he created some site, some system for Hugo, for creating a Hugo site where you do drop shipping. And I think you just use Stripe. And like I think Stripe has this thing where you can hook it up to other merchants and like just have a queue and order or something. I'm not quite sure how it works, but you can look up Kai Hendry. I want to say his project was either Shopfront or Storefront. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if it's a finished thing either, but you can look into that. But if nothing else works, I mean, there is WordPress and WooCommerce, but again, it's kind of you're gonna want something. I would want something more minimalistic, but that will work. I will tell you that will work. Privigilo donates $5. BAP, Nick Fuentes, or Moldbug? Who is least cringe? I don't really know. I mean, of those guys, I mean, Moldbug is the one that I've consumed the most product from. But, yeah, I don't know. BJ says, automatic or manual transmission? I'm in a Maramut. I don't know how to drive a manual. Never. Maybe I've driven one in my life. I don't really know how to drive them. You run across manual transmissions in America so rarely that I don't know. I guess it's more common on like farm vehicles and stuff, or like different kinds of things. But yeah, I don't know how to drive a manual. But of course, like obviously, it's better, you know, in all sense and purposes. Let's see. Okay, okay, so Keith says, libertarians have the problem of all other utopian politics. They are made by and for populations of 115 IQ. There's no answer for what to do with these people below this line who cannot and will not participate under the same social contracts. Or at least at the very least they're not speaking it out loud. Yeah, I think in libertarian thinking there is this kind of social Darwinism that's implicit that I mean, for better or for worse. Like there actually could be an argument to make here, but libertarians basically suggest creating a society that would make it impossible for dumb people to exist, right? Or if dumb people or there will be temporary problems where like dumb people don't want to go by the social contracts, but then they'll be punished in some way, or like there has to be some way of getting rid of these people, right? Or you know, the libertarian viewpoint, oh well, we'll just like incentivize this behavior and it'll happen, and that's just not really how it is. It is still utopian thinking. So the thing is, like, of the guys that I met at like libertarian conferences, I have no doubt that a libertarian utopia could work among those guys. That doesn't mean anything. Whereas I couldn't say that of communists. Like communist utopias, like they're not going to work. I mean, maybe some. Jogger says, "Is Peter Thiel low-key based?" Well, he's gay, literally gay. So you can't really be based when you're gay. But I mean, he does say some base things. Like he did support Orange Boomer. At least he is red-pilled on the university question, and he has been for a while. I mean, Peter Thiel is not that bad, but you know, I wouldn't give my endorsement to him. Gergetta says, "Have you listened or read Orthodox Survival Guide, originally by Seraphim Rose or remade by Father Stephen? Takes on post-schism Europe are bingo bango." Okay. Yeah, no, I've never read that. So the .NET developer says, if you want businesses to adopt Linux, you need enterprise quality software that starts with .NET. Yeah. I mean, that is the real problem. The problem is like there's a lot of software that's like broken out there, like for software standards that are just extremely broken. And they're partially broken because people want broken stuff. Like people can't opt with like minimalist stuff and things like that. I mean, it's not in the, I don't know. It's like what's the equivalent of Microsoft Word, you know? Like there's a sense in which the software itself is it's like not what was I gonna say? The software is the problem. The fact that software is doing this is the problem. Same thing with software as a service, or like a lot of enterprise software. That's how it is. You know, I don't believe in enterprise software, but a lot of businesses, it's just like it's the easiest thing. Let's see. GamerWord sends in some XMR. He just says lol. All right. I actually finally caught up with all my donations. Wow. Feel accomplished. Now I can sit back and relax. I'm gonna look at the chat. Can't believe I used Google Docs in college, lol. Yeah, I feel the same way. There's actually a video early on my YouTube channel, my first video I put up way before I decided to have a YouTube channel. There's actually a video of me using Google Docs. Believe it or not. But, yeah, the worst thing is, you know, when I was younger, I was like, oh my goodness, Microsoft Word, it sucks. I can't believe that people use it. When are they going to get over it? And finally, my wish was granted, and now kids just learn freaking even worse Google Docs. The only thing worse than enterprise software is enterprise software that runs on someone else's computer. Luke, do you know about Jean-Francois Garriapie? Have you read his Revolutionary Phenotype? No, I haven't read that. I know he exists. I know he exists. Does he still, like, do stuff? Does he, like, stream? I don't even know. I want to say... Maybe I'm misremembering it. I want to say there was one time I was, like, invited to do a stream with him. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Maybe it was, like... people have definitely asked me to go on his streams, but, like, yeah, I'm not gonna... I never email someone asking, can I be on your podcast? That is, like, extremely low energy, especially because I'm not a big fan of doing this podcast stuff. Like... I mean, I'll do it. I guess I said earlier in the stream I'm doing something with someone tomorrow. I don't even know who the guy is, but he wanted to have me on. So, why is Google Docs bad? Normie here. I don't know. Is that someone joking? Well, the whole point is you don't own the docs. Like, this is like, instead of doing something in the simplest way possible, let me create a document on my computer and edit that. You're not just using massive amounts of software. You're saving this on someone else's computer, and you have to be tethered to the internet to use it. So it's running proprietary software. It's monitoring you, monitoring literally every key press. Okay, it's on somebody else's computer. You don't have it. Like, if the grid goes down, it's not yours. It's like... I'm dead serious, lol. First time chatter for your lives. Just watch some of your videos. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't even do videos on technology stuff anymore. But yeah, it's like software as a service, like Google Docs kind of stuff. That is the worst. That's the worst thing that's ever happened. Like, the amount of convenience that it even gives people is so small. Like, oh, it's cool to be able to edit something at the same time as someone else. Okay, when are you actually ever going to use that? You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that people actively use. And it's you can actually get free and open source software, hosted on your own server and do the same thing. I think we talk about Nextcloud or whatever, or what is it? What's the? There's some other one that's you can host on your own server, but yeah, it's bad stuff. Like, it's like, instead of doing computing in your house, you're gonna use Amazon Alexa to I don't know. You want to ping Amazon HQ every time you have a question. That's the absolute state of modern technology. It's pretty bad. OwnCloud, is that it? Vietnamese person sends in XMR. Another thing about height, I've noticed people in the global north are just taller and generally. Also, I don't support segregation, but I would support each ethnic, tribal, racial group having an autonomous region. Well, that in nature, that's how it is. If whites gave us California, there would be no democracy based and no black crime. Oh boy, yeah, that would solve some problems. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, that's not always true about people in the. Well, okay, if you mean global north to mean developed countries, yeah, but of course, when you're talking about genetic potentials, people in the equatorial regions are going to be taller. What was that sound? Okay, it was a cat. I forgot I have a cat in the house. It's scratching on something. Whereas Eskimo people are, like, squat and stuff, more body fat for the colder regions. So. Okay, Eric says, BAP is a confirmed gay op. Him and other teal projects shouldn't be taken at face value. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. I remember seeing his Twitter sometimes, and they'd have, like, kind of cool posts sometimes. But also a lot of it, is he supposed to be actually gay? Like, I don't even know. I was getting conflicting vibes from that, because I feel like some of the stuff in those circles is kind of weird. Paris says, is it possible to practice MMA both as a hobby and professionally and still be a good Christian? I mean, I don't know if you can practice MMA and not be cringe. I don't think it has anything to being with being a Christian or not. Although, some early church fathers do condemn, like, boxing and gladiatorial stuff, but it's more like it's stupid to consume product. like actors they would conceive. Actually, what is it? Dude, I want to say, okay, so in one of the what is it? Books that I want to republish on the early Christian, which one was it? I'm going to give you the exact name. So there's on lindypress.net, which you can buy books from right there. There was one of the books I'm going to put up, which is like an early Christian reader that has a compilation of like early Christian... I'm on the wrong computer. This one is the one I need. That has a compilation of like early Christian writings and stuff like that. Stuff that wasn't in the Bible, but was still used by the church or some other things. Anyway, there's one of the things in there. What is it? The Apostolic Tradition. I think this is what it is. This is one of the earliest stuff that's like written outside of the Bible, but it actually says like actually I'll read it out. This is like who you can allow in your church. Inquiry shall likewise be made about the professions and trades of those who are brought to be admitted into the faith. If a man is a panderer, he must desist and be rejected. So no poor fags. If a man is a sculptor or painter, he must be charged not to make idols. If he does not desist, he must be rejected. If a man is an actor or a pantomimist, he must desist or be rejected. So no actors can become Christians. A teacher of young children had best desist, but if he has no other occupation, he may be permitted to continue. A charioteer, likewise, who races or frequents races, must desist or be rejected. A gladiator or a trainer of gladiators or a huntsman in wild beast shows, or anyone connected with these shows, or a public official in charge of gladiatorial exhibitions must desist or be rejected. A heathen priest or anyone who tends idols must be deceased. Why am I saying deceased? Desist. I'm like mentally retarded. I'm reading too fast. A soldier of the civil authority must be blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so actors, people who played in the games, who were in the product consumption, entertainment industry, they were basically not allowed to convert until they quit their jobs, which is absolutely based. Absolutely based. We really do need to bring back the convention of actors being thought of as being less than prostitutes. That is my firm belief. That would be a good thing. How did I get on that? Oh, the MMA question. Adarsh says, here's another question, not too long. And although I accidentally donated $3 2 extra times for this, and it didn't go through, possibly my fault, so I don't know what to do about that. Oh, well, let's see. Okay, so another long question. A question about political involvement and interest. I'm increasingly more attracted to the idea of political disengagement like you or Moldbug recommend. I would also say I'm not disengagement. Okay, well, alright, well, I'll read this. And I fully agree it's just degenerate and a really fake system. However, the idea of accepting its existence and becoming your super independent like you seems great. But I have this fear with the accelerating degeneracy of our fake government and neutered opposition. Not even you could stay independent. Doesn't it at some point begin to affect your life? Isn't it pushing it under the rug a long-term solution? Is just pushing it under the rug a good long-term solution for us? No, that's not what you're doing. Also, I don't think I could be as independent as you because of personal circumstances. I hate academia. I just love physics too much to not want to do it professionally. Given this does screw me over, should I at least try to fight in a political battle since independence might not be possible either for blah blah. Should I get a CS degree and bail out? I feel like it'd be selling out my principles. I don't know if you're about to finish the degree, do it. I mean, you might as well just to have like the have that check. It does count for stuff still. But yeah, if you're starting out, I don't know. There are still reasons to get a bachelor's degree in terms of KBS. I'm waiting for this one. I want to answer this question. Okay, now let's go. All right, so the problem with this is you are assuming that you fighting in the system is going to make a lick of difference. Like your impact actually is substantially less than mine. I will go ahead and say that. Okay, now part of that is, I have a YouTube channel or whatever, but like you really have no effect. Like you being in the system, this is not like, especially in the age of the internet, there is no such thing as oh, I either try to fight political battles or I move to the country and I try to be independent. No, you can do both at once. And in fact, you are not doing any good. You're not doing any good. Like, if you're in a university trying to, like, red pill people, you're delusional. Like, if you're in, like, Google or whatever trying to red pill people, you're delusional. Like, you're wasting your time. You're giving moral consent to those people, and you are not doing anything. Like, if you moved into a shack in the middle of the woods and never saw anyone or just died, you would not be making any less change. That's what I'm trying to get. So if you think that by being in a city or by doing this stuff you're somehow more powerful, that is just so wrong. That is just so backwards, especially in terms of politics. And it's not, you're saying, oh, well, sweeping it under the rug, is that a long-term solution? No, the long-term solution is surviving this insanity, okay? The people have survived bouts of insanity many times in the past, and they will continue to survive. They will flee to the mountains, they will flee to the country, and they will be able to survive this insanity, okay? Now, it's not about you trying to... I mean, things are collapsing, right? Like, you should be really happy. Things are freaking collapsing slowly in front of you. Now, any kind of empire is an empire that exists for 500 years. It's going to have 100 years of goodness and 400 years of decline. And we are in those years of decline. And I don't think anyone can look at the system and not say things are bad. Like, there used to be, oh, there's all this leftist insanity and that's it. Now, there's all this leftist insanity, and it's destroying people. Like, it's destroying people's lives. There's this, like, hoax war that we have to destroy the economy for. Actually, multiple hoax wars over the past, like, decades or so to bring democracy and homosexuality to all the peoples of the world, right? So that is now tangibly destroying the empire. Or what it's doing to families and children, like these like insane leftist parents who are like grooming their children or like, you know, all this kind of insanity. Like, they are destroying themselves. All you have to do is outlast them, okay? Because things are collapsing right now. They're not collapsing fast. It's not a thing that's going to happen in like 5 years. I don't know, maybe it could, but like I do not expect in 5 years for us to be like, oh, I'm glad that's over. I'm glad like democracy and the media and all this nonsense is dead. I don't think that's going to happen. But you are outlasting them, okay? By being independent, it's not you retreating. It's you surviving. You are not doing any good where you are. You are doing much better good here. I mean, look at, I don't even have a real YouTube channel. I'm just a guy, and maybe I could secretly red pill like one student a year or something about something. I don't know. Who knows, right? So, of course, this is not me saying you should become a YouTuber or something cringe like that. But this idea that you are somehow more powerful in a city where your voice is suffocated by insane people, that is not the case. So, it is not retreat. It is not surrender. It is you doing a rational thing. This is what I talked about, a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe it's been 3 weeks. I don't know. When I did that video about, like, I'm angry about politics on Twitter. Like, what they try to do is they try to get you into a pitched battle. They try to get you into a battle you cannot win. If they get you, if they get you to consent to the system and work for it. I still have delusional friends who are like, oh, I'm gonna work in a university and I'm gonna I'm siphoning off money. Haha, they don't know that I'm actually cool. Like, I'm not like them. No, you are like them. Like, you are. That's how I was when I was in a university. It's sheer delusion. It's sheer people rationalizing their laziness, right? So yeah, I mean, just don't worry. You don't have an effect on the world right now, so you might as well move out. You're not going to win the political battle. They are trying to get you into another hoax, like they get you agitated and then beat you and humiliate you, where you could just not participate in that. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. And you're building something much more permanent. Okay. This is real. Like, people also think that because all this crazy stuff is going on in the world, normal life is just unobtainable to them, which isn't true. You can just move out of the... Like, how is this real? Like, drop your phone, leave the internet, go to real life, you're gonna be fine, okay? Things are how they've always been, okay? The weird thing is people think people think if you're moving to the country and you're being more independent, you think, oh, those people are being delusional and they're not connected to reality. No, it's that if you're plugged into the system and you're plugged into the social media nonsense, that is you not being connected to reality. Jogger sends in XMR. What's your favorite psychedelic? Well, I'm not a schizophrenic, so I don't use psychedelics. Would you legalize them? No, I wouldn't. Donating to you is only my second use for XMR. Lol. Yeah, I'm guessing you bought like shrooms or something. Actually, at Monerotopia, there was some guy selling, or was it a guy? Was it a girl? I forget. I forget who was at the stand. But someone was selling like shrooms or chocolate with shrooms in them or something like that. No, psychedelics are extremely cringe. All drugs are cringe. Even like commonly used drugs, I mean, even caffeine or alcohol, like I'm not against using them every once in a while, but yeah, bad idea. Marijuana is probably the worst drug. Marijuana is the drug of consuming product, but psychedelics are like are kind of similar, I feel like. And you know, you're also talking to demons, yeah. So you know that's how it is. Get over it. JTX donates $5. Thoughts on Jay Dyer? He's a popular Orthodox apologist who is also interested in crypto. You should stream together. I know that Jay Dyer exists. I'm not big. I mean, he's a really freaking long. Like everything he does is streams. So you know, I'm not really big into that. Like I do not watch much on YouTube. Actually, given my live streams, I definitely produce more content on YouTube than I ever consume. Yeah, but I know he exists. I'm not super interested in apologetics or whatever. He's more of a, from what I understand, he's more of like an apologetic arguing guy, which I am 100% not. Which is also very, I don't know. I think he's also like me in that he had an upbringing kind of like the Western intellectual tradition, like, you know, more scholastic stuff. I feel like he by virtue of being apologetic, that's almost nearly certainly the case. But you know, I'm not into that. That's one reason I prefer Orthodoxy. Luke says, are you going to travel to Europe at some point? Would you consider giving a talk at the University of Malta if you were invited? Well, if I were invited, all expenses paid, I mean, sure, I'd do that. But, like, you know, getting there, traveling is the expensive thing. And, of course, you know, as long as I can get on an airline where I don't have to get the heckin' mark of the beast and wear a stupid mask or whatever, I think people are over that. Now they're on to the new current thing. But, I mean, I don't spend that much money. Like, if people invite me somewhere and it's somewhere a close drive, I might go. But if it's anywhere that requires, like, a plane and stuff, like, I don't travel that often. I don't have that many Wells Fargo points saved up. So, like, unless I were getting a free ride somewhere, realistically, I'm not going to go there. However, there is a chance that I will go to Europe at some point in my life. I really don't have the Eastern Europe thing. I don't really have an into it. I don't have, you know, never like gotten my hands dirty with it, tried to use it for anything, but it does seem like a cool and censorship resistant way of hosting data, but yeah, I don't know. Oh man. Well, my nose is starting to itch, so that means I'm getting tired of doing a stream. I don't know why that happens. Does that happen to other people when they talk for a long time? Okay, oops. I'm going to look at the chat because I finally got through donations again for this brief period. Oh, look, someone gave a super chat. I will read that because I randomly came across it. Maximum Weeb says, thank you for doing what you do, Luke. My goal next 6 months is achieve 10% of what you've accomplished, which would be 100% more than what I'm doing now. Still lifting weights. Sun and Steel by Yukio Mishima. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm that accomplished in anything, I guess. In personal independence, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I am entoyed, as they say. Okay. Comparing your accomplishments to others is cringed. Cringed? I don't think that's a word. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's very low energy to constantly compare yourself to others, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're doing it in a self-critical way, like, oh, I could be doing this, you know? I mean, that's the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move all these emails over. Thank goodness that I have Neomut. Man, I don't know how to do it. Jonathan King says, thank you for your content. All right, thank you. Although people should be not using the YouTube super chat thing. I'm not against it, but meme era, high level thinkers, meme era, Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I know. Luke, do you use rec files? Looks like it would be useful for managing your library on your website. Now that I'm using Hugo for my library on my website, that is, I have a much better system for that. I do use rec files for the not related website because I have not related information stored in like a rec file. And I thought about doing a video about that, but I might actually like switch from rec files to using Hugo on even on not related, but I'm not quite sure. Which guy on Odyssey who lives in the desert outside and streams better than you on with his phone? WTF, man, just stream 480p. Well, 720p, when I first started using Starlink, 720p was absolutely fine. And it's not, like, the connection is good, it's just it poops out every once in a while. So I think that problem would be persistent in 480p. I could probably, maybe I'll try 480p next time, but I really don't think, like, the issue is not, like, the speed. It's the, well, you know, I guess, like, the packets would the packets be smaller? I'm not quite sure how it works. It might make a difference. I'm not quite sure. I might go ahead and watch part of the stream and see how bad it looks. If it actually is breaking up a lot. Okay, so I'm done with donations, and no one's donated in the past couple minutes, so... Oh, I can finally relax. I hate this webcam, how it makes everything closer to it look massive. So, like, my legs look massive if I do this. You know, it's just like, I don't know. Any advice for normies like me on reading the KJV edition? Just read it. Yeah, Soylink. So since I did that video on Soylink, I think they slowed me down, and the connection is less consistent. And I think they trees anywhere near it. Luke, are you ever going to go back to Ubuntu? When did I use Ubuntu? I mean, I guess I used Ubuntu, like, briefly before I knew how to use Linux. But in my normie Linux user days, I think I more or less used Manjaro. But Manjaro now, like, absolutely sucks. They've added all this other... I mean, they've gone the Ubuntu way of just adding in all this garbage. I think they... Do they even have snaps now in Manjaro by default? Something ridiculous. They have some alternate package manager and stupid stuff. So Artix is usually what I recommend to people. Because that's what that's what I use. It's the only... I mean, I've really only used two Linux distributions. That's Arch and Artix. And again, Manjaro I used for a very brief period. And Arch and Artix are basically the same thing, you know. In, let's say, movie making, filmmaking, graphical art, all these kind of things. All of these things are nice to have, okay? And if you think, like, literally, if someone made good Baroque art, or, like, good-looking art as opposed to the stuff, you know, shilled by the you-know-whos, that would be infinitely greater of a contribution to the based and red-pilled world than LARPing as some kind of political activist. I will just say that. That is infinitely more powerful. Like, I mean, that's how they took over. Like, that's, I mean, you can just look up. Oh, you can just look up who ran the original movie studios in America, and you will not be surprised. But you know, that was like people need to, I think more culturally, because I think a lot of people on the right will be like, oh, well, art students, those are like cringe leftards, or oh, filmmaking, that sounds gay, or blah blah blah. But art needs to be more cultivated. I mean, I have seen people who have do music and all this kind of stuff, but like it needs to be a more common thing. And it's much more powerful than like LARPing within the system and working for Google and all this kind of crap. Pretending you're doing something. So, I mean, it's easy to compete with the establishment because they're just all about anti-art now. They're all about like ugliness and disgusting movie. Oh, look at this movie that like has no real plot and just like there's disgusting gore and horror and all this kind of stuff, and it just like psychologically stresses people. The competition is easy, right? I respect people already who do like low budget films and stuff like that, but especially I don't want to say like political films, but I mean like just create good art. It needs to happen. Where do you get your text from Lindy Press from? Oh, this is from Where is Sauce for $5. Are you using an already edited version of the text? If so, what texts? Toynbee OCT or something? I don't know what you mean by Toynbee. I mean, it depends on what texts. I mean, different books come from different places. A lot of them are actually already on archive.org, stuff like that. So I spruce them up, I edit them. I don't make it, or I'll use texts from different places. And there are some that I will more or less... Opus Tertium, which isn't up there yet, I basically... actually, the other Roger Bacon work, the Compendium of Theological Study, it also, I digitized myself. I PDF to text some Google PDF, and then I had to go through every single page and edit it and stuff like that. So they come from different places. Like, basically all the texts are in the public domain. You can find copies of them online. It looks really dark here. It looks really dark. I mean, it's like basically noon where I am, but it's because I closed the window. Like the natural light, weirdly enough, doesn't look good. It gets me overexposed. But this looks all right. So I get them from different places. So, all right. So, Adarsh says, sorry for paste bin. Oh, boy. Oh, wait, no, I already read that one. Or I think I already read that one. Let me just double check. Oh, okay, yeah, it's a new one. Okay, I can accept the point about trying to fight. This survival explanation makes sense to me. Apart from the politicians, what about my intrinsic value? Apart from the politics, what about my intrinsic value for studying physics? It'd be hard to do that without working in a university. Yeah, well, it's not a real job. Like, the 20th century has created this idea among people that, like, studying things is a job. And it isn't. Like, it's not... Like, the reason graduate schools exist now, or the reason, like, full-time professors... I mean, it used to be professors and stuff. All of these people had real jobs. There have been... Or there was, like, a very small elite that might actually work full-time for a university. But the idea of just, like, I like doing this, so it's going to be, like, what I do for a living. That's crazy. That's an artifact of the 20th century. And the reason it happens, the reason grad students and all these people get paid now is because the system, when they're screwing people up, when they're doing what we were talking about before, making them, like, impotent people, like, impossible to employ, just, like, taking away their agency, all this kind of stuff, it makes them unemployable in the real world. And if you want apparatchiks to shill for you, you have to pay them. And that is functionally what academia is now. It's basically people who can't function outside of it, who don't have anything to do. So they're just kind of paid by the system to sit around just so they won't, like, actually get mad at the system. And, they shill for people. They shill, and as time has gone on, this will become more and more the case. Not only should you not be doing that as a job, secondly, The job itself, like the formality of having a professor that actually studies things that isn't like transgender studies is going to become a formality. Like with every passing year, you will see a physics professorship becoming even more of an insane thing. You know, there are things like, or I guess in physics, like a lot of the harder sciences, the vector for subversion is often global warming. So that's the thing that they use. But either way, what do you? I mean, I don't know. You seem like you're talking as if you have this interest and you feel entitled to work in this interest, and that's gonna hurt you. Like if you say that, there's no. I mean, you could be an engineer. Like that is something that is very useful and requires physical knowledge and maybe like very novel physical knowledge. I'm not quite sure. Engineers are something that's in demand, right? But yeah, like. You are definitely, you should not feel entitled to study some academic discipline just for no reason, because you're not doing anything. Like just in terms of like, are you actually contributing to society? Okay, like are you feeding someone even indirectly? Okay, when you have a job that's like questionably useful, a lot of times you're at least feeding someone. You're at least improving their life. When you're doing these academic things, I don't know. Now, if you want to be an engineer and you use physics, that's great. That's great. There are lots of things you can do. Make a big difference, but you're not entitled to just, I don't know. No one is. I live with myself if I was unable to study and contribute to an amazing field because of stupid politics. Well, you can't. You're not going to be able to. This is only going to get worse. See, that's what I thought I was going to do. Oh, linguistics. No one gives a crap about that domain, and no one did. Like there basically was very little political subversion per se in my department, in terms of like, you have to study this and you have to do that and you can't reach these conclusions. There's very little of that. However, the system was still eating it up. The mentality of people, the certain psychology of people is going in there. So a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, Luke, I think it's so sad you had," a lot of linguistics people or whatever will reach out to me, or economics people, and say, "Oh, it's so sad that you didn't do that. Oh, I wish you could contribute to these fields, and you have many great ideas of blah, blah, blah." It doesn't matter. We don't live in that world. We don't live in a world where this idea that you can contribute to this academic field and it's going to be taken seriously, and you're like, your innovations are not going to be suspect to like, some kind of publication bias or like, all this kind of stuff. You will be a paper pusher in the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you're not even gonna survive. Not because maybe you're not good at it, but because it's not for you. This is not. Do you have pronouns in your bio? Do you have dyed hair? If not, academia is not for you. You might say my physics department is right. It's okay right now, but in 10 years, it ain't gonna be. It ain't gonna be unless there's some kind of massive collapse, in which case universities are gonna be screwed anyway. So. So yeah, it's you got to get over that. I mean, think about engineering. If that is a go-between for you, if you are so tethered to this, think about engineering, okay? And you can do the more academic, like the more kind of theoretical stuff on the side, but you can also use it as a real job. Like you can be an engineer and use physics all the time. There are many times where you might use some kind of applied physics. That's totally fine. But yeah, this if you're, I don't know, and I hope other people listening to this hear this, because I know a lot of other people are in the same mindset. I think, I'm going to say I got an email from someone, I forget what field it is, but yeah, this is sheer, you got to get over this. Like this, I identify with this line of work and I have to do it, even though I'm a kid, and there's not even like a job with it. This is like it only exists in academia. That even as like a career, even if we lived in a perfect world, that would still be a high-risk career that you could actually become like a professor and work in physics. That is high risk, okay? You don't know that there's a lot of filtering that's going to be going on. Just try and do something that's related to it if you can. Really, you should probably just get a random job doing something else, and you'll probably realize that you're not that tethered to physics anyway. But, you can do engineering or something in the meantime. So, okay. Okay, Eric says, if you were invited to Tennessee for this podcast, would you consider it? Don't read aloud. Sorry. Oh, I guess he doesn't want me to read aloud the lower point. Let's see what it is. I won't tell what it is. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have heard of him. Yeah, I would be open to that. I actually respect that if it's an in-person podcast too. I would be very open to that. Yeah. Okay. So Kenny sends in $10. I somewhat relate to your comment on the Middle Ages for Europeans. Here in Africa, we still have a relatively recent memory of our past when we lived off the land and were more self-sufficient than what we are now. Only problem is that it is mostly passed down by word of mouth. Some of it was documented by colonialists, and Africans that formerly educated and Africans that formerly educated in the early days, but I fear a lot of it has been lost. For example, herbal treatments that work but haven't been extensively researched within the framework of modern peer-reviewed science. We're also abandoning a lot of traditional social structures to our own detriment, in part influenced by the Western media. Modern technology has come with a lot of improvements, but I think we threw away a lot that was valuable in that process. Once I gain more independence, I hope to start a project to capture as much of it as possible before it is completely... Yeah, that's a great thing to do. And that's happening, of course, not just in Africa. That's happening all over the world. I mean, it's even happening in the developed world, right? We have kind of a history that is, an oral history and stuff, and like traditional herbal stuff that's lost. Okay, it's eaten a lot of that stuff up, but now it's happening all over the world. So yeah, I absolutely need to do that kind of stuff. A lot of people... I mean, when I did that article a couple years back on why it's bad to have high GDP, this is what I talk about. Like GDP, like metrics of modern wealth, they measure only wealth within the system. They don't measure independence. They don't measure people who are living, who are growing their own stuff. They're giving stuff to their friends, or they're trading, or they're bartering, or stuff like that. So we have this natural blindness to what we had before, and we're creating a society that has nice plastic tools and fun toys and all this kind of stuff, but is really less sustainable. Like it's more prone to collapse, and we're creating people who are basically, Varg used to describe modern man as like a man in a wheelchair. Like modern society is like a giant, it's like an electric wheelchair, and it's very convenient. I don't have to walk. I can go where I don't have to spend effort, right? But if you live your life in a wheelchair, like, is it good to be in a wheelchair? Is it good to be bound to a wheelchair? No, it makes you weak. And that's kind of the same concept. So yeah, we can use, like, I'm not one of these people who's anti all technology, but we have to use it with the most discerning tendencies. That's how it is. And it's very important. Oral tradition, for those of you, like this guy who might be in Africa or might be connected to an oral tradition, it is extremely important to like keep that going. Like, and around here, this is the case as well. Like in the American South, like, frankly, we have an oral history that's very different from, the stuff that goes on in textbooks, you know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot of stuff that you got to keep going. And, there's a good book series. Where is it? Actually done in America. Oh, shoot. I think I talked about this maybe even in the last stream. Like, so, like, the Foxfire books. So I have 2 of these. There were, like, 12 of this. This is, like, kind of an ethnography of, like, Appalachian people, where you go to them, you ask them all this cultural stuff. There's actually a story to its writing. It was like some project in a it used to be a junkie private school. Now it's a very swanky private school in North Georgia. And there was this class project where they were supposed to interview all their parents, like, how do you build a log cabin? How do you dress a pig? How do you, tell us some ghost stories? All this kind of cultural stuff. Tell us herbal remedies. There's stuff on, like, how they used to use, like, astrological signs to plant crops, all this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that is not written down, and it's important to preserve it. Now, it's here in America, I'm sure, as our donator says, that's the case in Africa, and it's the case everywhere else, right? Most of history is not written, and really the important stuff of history is not written, right? So, yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, you should make every effort to preserve that kind of stuff. That is not... Okay, let me check the chat. I'm getting kind of tired. 0. I'm just going to email him that. I think I have his email somewhere. Okay. Yeah, I went through. Yeah, because I'm going to be close to Tennessee, so it would be nice to do that. Because when I'm going to Linux Fest in North Carolina. It depends on where they are in Tennessee. I don't know, but I don't want to speak past the sale. I don't know. Maybe they don't know who I am. Nice fursona, Luke. Yeah, this is. You like my fursona? I'm Buc-ee. Dude, I want a Buc-ee furry suit. That's what I want. It's actually getting kind of hot. I'm going to turn on my AC. Ugh. Back in my old house where I used to have one of those Windows ACs. Anyway, I had a AC on the window, and so whenever I did a live stream, I would turn it off because it'd just be so loud. It'd just be so you wouldn't hear anything but the AC. And so, like, by the time 2 hours came around, I'd just be like boiling hot. All right. So, I think I'm getting kind of tired. I've been going for like 2.5 hours. I'm going to put up... So today I'm going to put up 2 videos. Just because why not? They're not new video... Well, they're new for people on YouTube. Internet connection. Do I have one? Okay, yeah, here we are. Okay, did everyone just miss all the stuff that I was saying? Well, okay, whatever. I'll repeat it again. I'm going to put up 2 videos on Monero on my channel today that I've already released on PeerTube. One is going to be on... oh, people are saying yes. Whatever. Whatever. Who cares? You'll see the notifications anyway. Something about new videos. Soylink crashed. 2 videos. Yeah, that's right. That's right. 2 Monero videos. I figure I'll put them on the same day just because, like, I feel whenever I do cryptocurrency stuff, there are some people who just hate cryptocurrency so much. So I'm gonna put all the hatred in one day rather than spreading out, so people don't complain. All right, I'll give one little last check to the donations. Okay. All right, I don't see anything. I'm gonna call it quits. And I will. You know what? Maybe next stream I will do one in a public park, so I have better reception. So hey, I am at least glad, thanks to Soylink, that I can at least kind of do a stream even if it breaks up every other minute. Living off the grid and using crypto. Well, it's better than living off the grid and using the traditional banking system. Although I still do have a bank account. I think I did mention the possibility of this year totally going all crypto online, like not even allowing people to donate money, like fiat money, and stuff like that. And I'm thinking more seriously about that. But then again, I don't know. Use a bank or a credit union. I actually have, I guess banks. I think maybe one of them qualifies as a credit union. I don't know. It's basically the same thing. Come on. Of course, I don't have checking accounts or whatever at most banks, but I do have like credit cards open with like literally every bank. Because my like credit card thing that I do, where is that still on my website? Where it's like, oh yeah, go to my website up there, and then click on I think in the economics tab there'll be something about credit cards, and I did videos on those, but like basically I just live off of credit card introductory offers and pocket the money. Actually, that's not true. At least this year I haven't done one in a while, but you can put all your eggs in one basket. Well, yeah, that's why I have multiple credit cards. Or are you talking about like cryptocurrency? I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Thanks to you, I'm going to a coding boot camp. Your videos are a very interesting gateway into a mentally healthier lifestyle by understanding tech instead of being controlled by it. Yeah, I mean, that's the big issue. A lot of people nowadays, they're all about, technology for technology's sake. They're not thinking about how it affects them. There's a big issue. So, all right. Okay, I'm going to call it quits in 1 minute once I actually pull up everything and tell it to turn off. Wait, I can't just say off here. All right. Video. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna press the in-stream button once it pops up. So thanks for everyone for coming out. Again, I'll put some crap up, and I'll see you guys later.